Unmatched journalism, scouring ballots, analyzing data, and tracking down key players to expose possible election fraud in North Carolina's 9th Congressional District.
Channel 9 is leading the way in this investigation that's now making national headlines. Our political reporter Joe Bruno was the first to break the news of allegations of illegal ballot collection, and he was the first to get people to admit to this on camera.
International news outlets like The Washington Post, CNN, and MSNBC have all turned to Joe for his expertise on this case and the stunning allegations that he's uncovered.
Reporter Joe Bruno, who's done some of the best reporting on this story.
Our next guest helped expose this story. Joining me now is WSOC reporter Joe Bruno.
And Joe is here in the studio with us tonight after spending most of the past week in Bladen County.
A lot of attention and well-deserved in your repair, gaining national attention, a lot of respect for the hard work. I know he's tired, he has not slept, he's been working really hard out there. And the Democratic candidate, Dan McCready, because of all the reporting you've done on this, chose to exclusively break the news to you that he is no longer conceding this election.
He did, and he told me he thinks Harris knew what was happening in Bladen County.
So as of today, I am withdrawing my concession to Mark Harris. And furthermore, I call on Mark Harris to tell the American people exactly what he knew and when he knew it.
Channel 9 has been trying to ask Mark Harris those exact questions. This week we've gone to his house and repeatedly called and texted him. He has not responded. Earlier tonight, we reached Dallas Woodhouse, the executive director of the state Republican Party. He believes Mark Harris had no idea what was going on.
There is no possible way that he knew about this potential illegal behavior. If there are people that worked for him that did, they would have had to hide it.
Today, Channel 9 did discover this picture showing Mark Harris and McCrae Dowless in the same room a year before the election. Of course, we will continue reaching out to Harris and his campaign so they can tell their side of the story.
Well, Joe, thank you for continuing to dig in on this one and take the voters and get them this information and leading our investigation.
Thank you, Joe. We want to take you through the timeline again. Perhaps you're just getting home and tuning in to this show to remind you of how all of this has gone down.
As it stands tonight, there are criminal investigations looking into absentee ballots in Bladen County in 3 election cycles. Last month's general election, the May 2018 primary, and in 2016. And we know, though, there has been concern as far back as 2010. Now, this all came to a head after Republican Mark Harris was declared the winner of the District 9 race in November over Democrat Dan McCready by just 905 votes. But last week, a state board refused to certify that count, and it was because of concern over absentee ballots in Bladen County. Channel 9 has affidavits from several voters saying someone came to their homes to collect their absentee ballots, which is illegal. And it all seems to have been organized by a man named McCrae Dowless. Now, some voters say the workers came to their door to collect absentee ballots and offered to finish incomplete ballots. One said a worker took her ballot and put it in an envelope and never sealed it or asked her to sign it. Absentee ballots have to be witnessed, and when our investigative team went to Bladen County and started to dig around, we found some of them witnessed by the same people over and over and over again. And we spoke to workers who said they were paid to collect these ballots, who admit they don't know what happened to them after they were collected. One even said she thinks it was all meant to sway the election for Harris.
Do you feel McCrae Dowless swayed the election?
Yeah.
And just yesterday, we spotted state investigators in Bladen County trying to see if there was a vote harvesting operation here. Did it affect the outcome? And the bigger question, where else may this have happened in District 9? In the meantime, the people of the district could have no representation in Washington if this is not resolved by the new year.
All right, you're up to date now, and Joe has been heavily focused on Bladen County for days, but now this investigation is expanding into Robeson County. Now, that's where anchor Paul Boyd is live tonight.
And Paul, you've been uncovering some stunning new information there.
Yeah, Eric and Scott, a lot of big questions in this county as well, like how many of these 666 absentee ballots in Robertson County were collected but actually not counted properly? How many of these were collected illegally? And how many other ballots are out there that were possibly brought into the picture for the wrong reasons? These are questions that I took to a lot of people today, including a woman who is accused of being a prolific ballot harvester for the Mark Harris campaign. But were you out collecting absentee ballots?
I assisted people with what they needed.
But you weren't related to them, so you weren't supposed to take them away.
I'm not going to say I did or I didn't. No comment.
Jennifer Boyd told me she was simply helping people who didn't have time to go to the polls in Robeson County, but we found Jennifer's signature on 55 absentee ballots, and she admits to helping fill out 52 of those ballots herself. Look at her signature over and over again in the voter assistance box. I asked if she was hired by McCrae Dowless, the man at the center of the election fraud allegations in nearby Bladen County. So were you working with McCrae Dowless?
No comment.
You said you had nothing to hide. So
I don't. No comment.
But evidence we uncovered show a definitive connection to McCrae Dowless. Look at these absentee ballots. The signature next to Jennifer's dozens of times says Lisa Britt. She's also accused of illegally collecting ballots back in Bladen County. Was Lisa Britt with you at every house you went to? My investigation talking to voters on the ground today revealed that Lisa Britt was not present like her witness signature requires when many of those ballots were filled out. She supposedly signed 27 ballots as a witness. Was Lisa here too that day?
No.
No.
Just Jennifer.
I don't know no Lisa.
No, we don't know
and
no
I told
Lisa.
You, I'm not talking
If true, that would be a Class 1 felony, a new layer to the election fraud investigation. These voters who asked not to be named told me the State Bureau of Investigations knocked on their door yesterday asking questions about who collected their ballots. They were encouraged not to comment any further. And we also know that Board of Elections investigators are on the ground here in Robertson County as well. Now, we've heard the name McCrae Dowless so many times in our coverage, but what do we really know about the man at the center of this fraud investigation? Affidavits obtained by Channel 9 suggest the man at the center of the election fraud investigation is McCrae Dowless. He's currently the elected Bladen County Soil and Water Conservation District Supervisor. Dowless has a criminal past dating back to the 90s for charges that include perjury and fraud. He got out of prison in '95 and got into politics. We've learned McCrae Dowless himself filed a formal protest against Democrats in 2016, alleging a scheme to impact voting results in Bladen County. The details of his complaint are strikingly similar to what he's now accused of doing. Records show he's been paid thousands over the years to help candidates get out the vote. His work isn't limited to Eastern North Carolina. In 2017, Republican Charlotte City Council candidate Pete Givens paid him $800 for consulting fees. Channel 9 has confirmed Dowless was doing absentee ballot work for the Mark Harris campaign. Our investigative team has gathered evidence and interviews suggesting McCrae Dowless was actually running a scheme to collect absentee ballots, which is illegal and considered a felony in North Carolina. The Mark Harris campaign has denied any knowledge of wrongdoing or ballot harvesting in Bladen County.
I was helping McCrae pick up ballots.
Eyewitness News political reporter Joe Bruno spoke with two women who say they were paid by McCrae Dowless to collect the ballots and bring them to him. Earlier this week, Joe Bruno gave McCrae Dowless an opportunity to tell his side of the story.
Were you paying people to pick up ballots?
This time I have no comment. Have a great day.
He went back into his home and declined to talk. And in the last few hours, we once again gave McCrae Dowless yet another opportunity to tell us his side of the story. And once again, he declined to comment. Scott, Erica, back to you in the studio.
All right, Paul, thank you. And Channel 9 did learn McCrae Dowless has helped other campaigns, too.
Yes, as we've talked about, a former Republican candidate for Charlotte City Council told Eyewitness News reporter Mark Becker that Mark Harris arranged for him to meet Dowless.
Yeah, I reached Pete Givens on the phone yesterday. He is in Alabama, and he told me he is surprised that his name even came up in all of this, and it only did because he had hired McCrae Dowless to consult on his campaign last year. Givens told me he's known Mark Harris because he's a member of First Baptist Church here in Charlotte, where Harris was the pastor for many years. And when he decided to run last year for city council as a Republican in a heavily Democratic district, he wanted to pick Harris's brain about it and ask for strategies, specifically getting out absentee voters. And that's where Harris suggested he speak with Dowless.
Mark told me about this guy's process of, that he had a process, he didn't know what it was, and he was going down to meet. He said, hey, this is something you might want to do. And my assumption was that meeting was the first meeting he had with him as well.
Givens says if something was illegally done in Bladen and Robeson counties, whoever did it should be held accountable. But he also insists that the man he knew as his pastor, Mark Harris, knew absolutely nothing about what was being done with those absentee ballots. Back to you.
Mark, thank you. Now, if this investigation drags on, it could set up an unprecedented special election ordered by Congress.
This is bigger than that one seat. This is about undermining the integrity of our elections.
Nancy Pelosi, the likely future Speaker of the House, would not go as far as to call for a special election today, but her fellow Democrats have.
It's pretty clear this is voter fraud, and so the election results should be thrown out.
If there is a new election, there are two ways this could all play out. If the state orders a new election, it would be between the same candidates, Republican Mark Harris, Democrat Dan McCready, and Libertarian Jeff Scott. Now, if Congress steps in to ask for a new election, which it does have the full authority to do, then we would just start all over with a new candidate filing process, a possible primary, and then election. As you can imagine, that would be a drawn-out process. Washington correspondent Justin Gray learned how this would all play out in Congress.
There are a couple of ways Congress will be forced to weigh in on this, and one possibility is unprecedented. If the Board of Elections certifies Mark Harris as the winner, any other member of Congress can object to him being seated. If that happens, which it likely would, the full House would then vote on whether or not to seat him. As we follow along then, if they vote not to seat him, it doesn't mean he's out of Congress. The decision would then get sent to the House Administration Committee. They would select a panel to investigate the election results themselves. The House does have an important constitutional power here. They can order that seat vacant and call for a new election, but that's something they have never done before. There are, of course, already calls from congressional Democrats for an investigation and also for a special election. The man who could have perhaps the biggest say on all this is the Democrat in the House Administration Committee, the top Democrat there. He told us the Constitution gives the House broad constitutional power here over its own membership, and Congress, quote, will not tolerate efforts to unlawfully sway the outcome of any House election. Back to you in Charlotte.